Some people buy a house to live in. Some people buy land as an investment. But there are others who buy land for a completely different reason, to stand still somewhere without having to ask for permission. In a world where everything requires paperwork, approvals, and conditions, simply being allowed to stay has become a privilege. Borders are tightening. Rules are multiplying. Residency is starting to feel like a luxury item. And for many people, especially in the second half of life, the real question is no longer, how much money do I make, but where am I allowed to live for how long and under what identity? If a piece of land could give you the right to remain, if placing your feet on the ground and calling it home no longer required explanation, then are you buying land? Or are you buying your future? Because while much of the world is closing in, there are still places that remain quietly open. Places that are not searching for the richest people, not chasing flashy wealth, but welcoming those willing to commit life honestly and become part of the community. In these places, land is not a speculative asset. It is proof that you belong. So where are these places? Which countries still open their doors to people who are not running away, but starting over? Let's explore them together, beginning with country number 5. 5. Georgia, where land opens a doorway between Europe and Asia. Georgia is not a country that overwhelms you at first glance. It doesn't show off. It doesn't advertise itself. It doesn't try to become a destination. But when you find yourself standing beneath the towering Caucasus Mountains, walking through stone villages where vineyards spill down the hillsides and wine is still made, the same way it was thousands of years ago, you begin to feel something different. This is a place where people live with the land, not on top of it. In Tbilisi, Georgia's capital, the old and the new don't cancel each other out. Wooden balconies leaning with age sit beside modern cafes where the internet is fast, but conversations are slow. This is a city that doesn't rush you into becoming someone else. Life here moves at a gentler pace, yet it never feels disconnected from the world. And naturally, a quiet question begins to surface. Here, are foreigners treated as guests or as neighbors? The answer doesn't come from the law books. It comes from everyday life. When you own land in Georgia, especially in suburban or rural areas, where prices still range between $1,500 and $4,000 per acre, you are not just buying property. You are buying a place within the community. The rules are clear. Foreigners are allowed to own land under transparent conditions. No ambiguity, no temporary feeling. Your name is on the land. You exist here. And that changes everything, especially how you see yourself. The legal path in Georgia isn't presented as a program. It feels more like a journey. You invest or purchase, and residency becomes possible. You live here, you contribute, and over time, you move toward permanent status. After roughly 10 years, citizenship is no longer a distant concept. It becomes the natural outcome of staying long enough to be recognized. Not because you are wealthy, but because you stayed. Living costs make that journey sustainable. With about $700 to $1,000 per month, life is comfortable. Local food is fresh, seasonal, and affordable. Housing is flexible whether you choose to rent or buy. And there is a sense of stability that feels increasingly rare in modern Europe. In Georgia, money doesn't define who you are. Time does. And that may be why Georgia never asks where you come from. Your passport, your past, your labels, they matter less here. The only question that truly counts is, are you staying? Because in this country, long-term presence carries more weight than short-term promises. 4. Paraguay, where land isn't expensive and life isn't either. Paraguay is not a country that appears in glossy dreams. There are no famous beaches, no dramatic skylines, no pace that forces you to run just to keep up. Instead, you'll find wide green plains, long straight roads following the quiet flow of the Paraguay River, and something increasingly rare in the modern world: no one here is in a hurry. Asunción. The capital is calm in a way that can feel almost surprising at first. There is no pressure in the air, no unspoken tension, no sense that slowing down means falling behind. And then a very honest question begins to form: if no one around you is rushing, do you still need to? In Paraguay, slowness is not a sign of failure. It is a collective choice, a society that has not traded its daily life for speed. Land reflects that same spirit. With prices still ranging from $1,000 to $3,000 per acre, you are not entering a market distorted by speculation. Few people buy to flip. Many buy to live, to farm, to build something long-term. Land here is treated not as a number on a spreadsheet, but as part of real life. And that creates a very different feeling. You are not competing with the market, you are joining it. The path from residency to belonging in Paraguay is one of the most straightforward still available. You are not required to prove exceptional wealth. A modest, stable income or a simple land investment is often enough to show intent. Permanent residency can be obtained relatively quickly, and after several years of genuine residence, actually living here, being present citizenship, becomes a realistic possibility rather than a distant promise. Paraguayan law doesn't try to test you. It simply asks whether you are serious. Living costs reinforce that sense of ease. With about $650 to $900 per month, life is manageable and stable. Housing is simple but comfortable. Local food is affordable and easy to access. Services are functional without being overwhelming. Taxes are light. Paperwork is minimal. Life here is not slowly drained by hidden fees or endless rules. Money is not a monthly battle. It is just a tool for living. And that may be Paraguay's deepest philosophy. This country does not sell you a grand dream. It does not promise transformation or status. Instead, it offers something far rarer: a life that is not being pushed. Not pushed to be faster, not pushed to have more, not pushed to constantly justify your worth. In Paraguay, you are allowed to live slowly, live sufficiently, and live on your own terms. 3. Namibia. When land is space, not a number. Namibia is not a place you visit casually. It is a country that makes you stop. Deserts stretch all the way to the horizon. Savannas open into vast emptiness. The sky in Namibia isn't just high, it's so wide that you feel smaller standing beneath it. Here, space is not a luxury. It is the default. And the first feeling most people experience is not excitement, but something far rarer: the ability to breathe. The silence in Namibia is not empty. It is full of wind, light, and the slow rhythm of nature. There are no horns, no crowds, no invisible pressure pushing you to move faster. And then a question appears without anyone asking it aloud: if everything around you is quiet, can you hear yourself more clearly? For many, the answer comes quickly, and sometimes it is unsettling, because not everyone is ready to live with their own thoughts. Land in Namibia reflects that same spirit. In areas far from major cities where people live alongside nature rather than overpowering it, land can still be purchased for roughly $800 to $2,500 per acre. This is not land for speculation, not land to flip. It is land for those who intend to stay, to farm, to raise livestock, or simply to claim a piece of sky no one is fighting over. In Namibia, the value of land is not measured by short-term profit, but by the amount of space it gives back to your life. The immigration path follows that philosophy as well. Namibia does not open its doors quickly, but it opens them clearly. Residency is built on a contribution-based model. Agricultural investment, long-term residence, real participation in the country, rather than symbolic money flows. Citizenship does not come fast, and it does not come easily, but it is transparent. You know where you stand. There are no shortcuts and no illusions. Namibia does not ask what you want to take. It watches whether you are willing to stay and live with the land. Living costs make that commitment realistic. With about $800 to $1 per month, life can be stable, safe, and orderly. Namibia is among the more secure countries in Africa. Society is disciplined. People keep a respectful distance, not cold, but not intrusive. You are not pulled into other people's pace. You are allowed to keep your own rhythm. And that may be why Namibia is not for everyone. It is not a place for those who need crowds noise or constant stimulation, but for those who need space to exist, to think, to slow down, to hear themselves more clearly. Namibia is more than a country. It is a long, permitted breath. 2. Ecuador. When land is tied to community, Ecuador doesn't reveal itself through wide boulevards or towering buildings that demand your attention. It opens through narrow roads, winding across the Andes, where morning mist still clings to rooftops, where local markets wake early with the scent of ripe fruit, fresh bread, and familiar greetings exchanged by people who have known each other for years. Here, space is not just geography, it is relationship. And the most natural question you begin to ask yourself is, where do your neighbors know your name? Life in Ecuador moves on a human scale. Small mountain towns, walkable neighborhoods, daily rhythms centered around markets, churches, and town squares. People stop to talk. They recognize faces. This closeness isn't always loud, but it is always present. For those coming from societies where everyone is busy and distant, the feeling of being recognized can arrive quickly and stay deeply. Land in Ecuador reflects that same communal spirit. With prices typically between $2,000 and $5,000 per acre, land remains accessible with clear and straightforward legal frameworks. No endless loops, no unnecessary complexity. You can own, build, cultivate, and most importantly, stay. Land here is not a speculative ticket. It is a statement that you intend to become part of the place. When you buy land in Ecuador, you don't isolate yourself from the community you step into it. The legal path is designed for people who live real lives. Through modest investment or a pensionado route, permanent residency becomes attainable. After roughly 5 to 7 years of genuine residence actually living here, being present citizenship becomes a realistic outcome. It doesn't arrive because you checked the right boxes on paper, but because you stayed long enough for your presence to become familiar. In Ecuador, law and daily life are not completely separate. They meet at the point of long-term presence. Living costs make that connection sustainable. With about $700 to $1,000 per month, life can be stable. Local food is affordable and varied services are sufficient, and healthcare costs are far lower than in many Western countries. Life isn't perfect, but it is balanced. You don't have to succeed every day just to survive. You only have to live consistently. And that may be Ecuador's quiet difference. This country does not give you the feeling of achievement or conquest. It doesn't create the illusion that you have made it. Instead, Ecuador offers something far rarer in the modern world, the feeling of being needed. Being greeted as you pass by. Being remembered at a familiar stall. Being recognized as part of the larger picture. In Ecuador, your value is not measured by what you accomplish, but by the simple fact that you are there. 1. North Macedonia. Europe, but not yet closed. North Macedonia is not the Europe of crowded airports or cities that never slow down. It opens quietly through the still waters of Lake Ohrid, through Balkan villages tucked into hillsides, and through a feeling that is increasingly rare on this continent. Europe here still has room. Space has not been compressed by prices, competition, or the pressure to become something grand. Standing there, a simple question feels unavoidable if Europe hasn't closed its doors. Yet would you dare to step inside? Life in North Macedonia moves at a natural pace. People are not chasing packed schedules or measuring their days by productivity alone. Mornings begin later, afternoons linger longer, and small communities remain close enough that faces are familiar. This is an older Europe, not outdated, but not yet worn down by speed and cost. A place where you can live in Europe without constantly bracing yourself just to survive it. Land reflects that openness. With prices around $500 to $4,000 per acre, ownership remains within reach for those without large capital. Village homes, stone walls, small yards, real neighbors can still begin at around $25,000, a figure that has nearly vanished across most of the continent. Here, land and homes are not treated as speculative assets, but as real living space. You buy to live, to settle, to place a fixed point on the European map. The path from residency toward a broader future is slow but clear. Through investment or long-term residence, legal residency becomes possible. After an extended period of genuine resident citizenship turns into a realistic outcome. North Macedonia does not promise shortcuts, but it does offer a durable route, a Balkan gateway into Europe, for those willing to stay, not merely pass through. Living costs keep that choice sustainable. With roughly $800 to $1 per month, life can be stable and balanced. Modest housing, local food, and a social life centered on small communities where people recognize one another. There is no glamour here, but there is also no invisible pressure. Life does not demand that you constantly prove your worth.